Call the meeting to order. Start with the flag salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, Jeff. Do we think Bonnie's going to be here?
Yeah, she'll be
Okay.
here.
Snow doesn't keep her away.
She's close anyway.
Get my wits about me here. First order of business are our consent agenda items. We have regular meeting minutes of January 7th and special meeting minutes of January 24th. I did notice that the template still has Judy as the board chair and me as the vice chair, but besides that, the meeting minutes looked good to me. Entertain a motion to approve items A and B.
So moved.
I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Second item on the agenda is third agenda on item, action items, payment of general fund vouchers, payment of payroll vouchers, payment of water fund vouchers.
I move that we accept the general fund vouchers, $31,951.75. Payroll vouchers, $16,565.12. Water fund vouchers, $86.02.
I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Scott, would you like to start?
Sure.
Did I get a pen? Here. Thank you, sorry.
Alright. Okay. Of course, I did the regular port meeting January 7th. January 8th, Mike and I met with Jeremy Hicks at the fire hall in regard to the requirements for the Oyster House building. January 10th, Mike, Larry, and I met with Nicholas Van on the Washington State Historical Archaeological Preservation. He's the engineer for the Oyster House criteria. Mike had concerns about some of the changes required to make sure it complies with the historical requirements. January 15th, North Bay Historical Society meeting in regard to the Pirates and Pearls fundraiser for the Sergeant Oyster House, which is going to happen April 6th. And January 17th, the All Ports meeting. And January 18th, PRTPO. And we're working on the Human Services Plan. And we're also working on finding, it was going to be Grays Harbor Government Council that was going to run the PRTPO. They are no longer going to do it, so we're going to see if we can partner with Kitsap County. We're still working on all that. January 23rd, again, North Bay Historical Fundraising Meeting. And I want to thank Kat Ross and Bonnie Knight for spearheading this fundraiser. And then, of course, the 24th, special port meeting in regard to water and Mike Ross's report. January 28th, North Mason Community Voice. Bo Bakken of the North Mason Fire Authority came and gave us updates about the continuing progress of the building in Tahuya and the proposed new fire station on Old Belfer Highway. January 30th, Larry and I, along with Trevor and Brianna, went to meet with Tim Sheldon in regard to the capital funding request for the Oyster House. And also thanks, Larry, for getting Mudfest back to Mason County. There we go.
Yeah. I did not have that interesting of a month. I did have the regular port meeting, the special meeting to talk about the Oyster House and the water system, and EDC Council. Nothing of historical consequences there. So, moving on to Executive Director's Report.
Security officers.
Oh, sorry. Security Officer Report. Sorry, Travis. Got Larry here to keep me in line.
Travis Merrill, Port Valley Security. So we had to chain a boat this month for non-payment.
Is it here or?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
here.
he's paying little bits at a time, but we're still gonna chain it until he finishes payment, because he's now here another month, so now he owes us even more. It was that derelict vessel that floated down, and then we allowed him to tie back up, so. Also, another vessel at the North Shore had been notified that they needed to pay because they were slipping behind, but it's somebody that we've worked with in the past, and we've got a plan there.
Always winds up paying.
Yes, always lines up. And then we also had a break-in on the North Shore facility.
Oh, boy.
One of our new renters that's been there for about a month now, a month and a half, had his vessel broken into and had some stuff removed from it. He filed a police report, which we also have a copy of. And, there's not much, we can do about that, in the sense that we just need more lighting and possibly, cameras as funding allows.
Right.
There's some upgrades there, and we might be able to attract more business. That's about it.
All right, thanks, Travis.
Thanks,
I
Travis.
also talked with that guy, and I'm gonna talk to Honduras and see if we can't turn what he lost in as a claim.
Do you know what he lost?
He lost some tools and some
Props
other
was the
stuff.
big one. He had
Props.
two
Yeah, a
props
couple of
taken,
props.
which will probably get scrapped out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Had to replace a broken window. A lot of the stuff that he thought would have been stolen got passed over.
Right.
yeah, they left his electronics.
Hmm.
So it looked like they must have been tweakers, because all they took was stuff that was metal.
The electronics are harder for them to get anything for.
All right.
So,
I'll try to sell them.
yeah.
All right, now on to the executive director's report.
All right, water system issues. I'm still in the process of calculating the proposed new water rates on a 5-year schedule that you all asked for at the recent special meeting. I'll have this ready for your review and to you in advance of the March 4th regular meeting, if you'd like to schedule a public hearing for this at that meeting. So let me know so we can notice it. As part of that, I need to put together the wording for accomplishing this via an amendment to the policies and procedures. I spoke with Doug Peel at Northwest Water Systems. He said we do not need the state's approval to do this, only for you all to adopt the new rates as changes to the policies and procedures manual and do it in a public meeting. Yarrick Community Utilities Proposal. As we've discussed previously, we had received a proposal from Yarrick Community Utilities to purchase water from our system. After the proposal was vetted by Joe Brogan at Foster Pepper, he suggested we enter into negotiations with Mr. Carey to purchase this system, as that is perhaps in the best interest of everyone. There's also money available from the state to do acquisitions that combine small water systems. I'm looking into this, as well as holding discussions with Mr. Carey as to exactly what this transaction might look like in terms of price and terms. Property purchase, as reported previously, state law requires we pay fair market value, which would be determined by a licensed appraiser. We've engaged a commercial appraisal firm of Schaefer, Standard, and Hernandez in Silverdale at a cost of $3,000. We're forced to use a commercial appraiser due to the fact the property is zoned village commercial, not residential. I spoke to Joe Schaefer last week. She told me she did a site visit and is preparing the appraisal, but said because of the uniqueness of the location and the zoning, she's having difficulty finding comparables. I've also received a title report from Land Title in Shelton. I'm scheduled to do the final grant presentation on February 13th at 12:30. If we get the grant, it will fund in August. However, we may have to front the purchase price and be reimbursed from the grant. Dock issues. During the windstorm last month, we suffered some serious damage to the floating dock portion of the gangway. Some of the flotation is separated from the deck surface. We had a similar problem some years ago and Honduras covered it. Contacted Honduras, and in the meantime, we've closed the dock at the gangway until the damage is repaired. We've taken photos to document everything for insurance, and the adjuster was supposed to come out today to inspect the damage, but rescheduled to Wednesday because of the snow. Previously reported we'd had a small electrical fire on the dock. While there wasn't any major damage, we do have to repair the fire damage, replace all the flexible liquid-tight conduit and wiring. While we're at it, according to National Electric Code, we need to upgrade the receptacles on the dock to ground fault circuit interrupters as well. Contacted a number of local electrical contractors to give us a price on doing the work, but no one was interested in getting under the dock to do it. We ended up with a singular bid from a marine electrical contractor from Tacoma that was in excess of $14,000. We recontacted some local firms, and Mason County Electric, which has done work for us previously, is working up a bid on it for us. However, after talking to Honduras, they've decided they're going to revisit covering this as well. So that's good news. Parking at the North Shore, I've submitted the permit application to the county, and we have a bid from Zephyrs for $71.62 to remove the old culvert, install 2 new 18-inch culverts, grade the lot after the trees are cut, and bring in some rock. Earl Iddings has agreed to take down the trees on the perimeter of the cleared area in exchange for the wood, so we have no cost for that. The only other cost I can see will be a couple of $100s for signage, directing boaters where to park and establishing the ingress and egress pattern. I originally guesstimated this project would cost us around $7,500, so we're right in the ballpark. This is a small project with big benefits, not just for the port, but the community as well, in terms of easier access to parking and especially safety considerations. As soon as the permit is issued, we'll get started. 3D building acquisition. I reported previously the 3D building on Highway 3 that WashDOT has used for offices during the widening project is for sale. I inquired about a governmental transfer, as I think this would make an ideal co-working facility, as it's already laid out for something similar. WashDOT said they couldn't do that unless it had some kind of transportation-related use in mind for it. So I've contacted all our legislators, as I'm sure there's some way to make this happen. Representative Griffey and Senator Sheldon are working on it for us. Also found out that North Mason Resources was interested in it, so I spoke with Jason Elzara about it, and he said they'd be happy to work with us on it, perhaps as tenants. I mentioned this to Dan Griffey and Tim Sheldon as well, and mentioned it again to both of them when we met with them in Olympia last week. Also heard from Tim Sheldon on Saturday about it, so we'll see where it goes. Update to the comprehensive scheme. If we're going to revisit the comprehensive scheme, as you suggested recently, we need to do it at a special meeting this month. Any updates would be due to RCO March 1st. This isn't required, as our 2018 update is good for 6 years, and I don't see us having the time or resources to pursue any additional projects this year other than what's on our plate currently. The only project we are working on that isn't in the plan is the property purchase, which doesn't need to be in there unless we begin doing something with the property. My recommendation would be to just leave it alone for this year and update it next year once some of what we're currently doing is completed. This is on the agenda for a discussion, however. Mudfest, I'm happy to report the Northwest Automotive Press Association's annual off-road event, Mudfest, will be coming back to Mason County again this year. Dates are April 30th to May 2nd. This is a premier event on the national automotive industry calendar. It is a head-to-head manufacturer competition where 25 Northwest Auto riders drive and score new vehicles in a series of on and off-road maneuvers. It's been so successful here over the last 4 years, I didn't really need to sell Mason County to the association like I had to previously. The event will completely fill Alderbrook for at least 3 days, plus some of it for a couple of other days. We'll also occupy the Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton for at least 2 days, plus prep time. Overall, it'll bring approximately $600,000 in revenue to Mason County in about a week's time. Totem pole issue, we've had so much else going on, this has slid to the back burner for now. We'll need to coordinate this with the fellow Commissioner Cooper knows to do the restoration, and with Mr. Kelsey and his boom truck to move it forward. WPPA and other meeting schedules. The annual bias rally is February 19th to 22nd, which includes a special class put on by the Washington Finance Officers Association. Leanne, myself, and Commissioner Cooper are scheduled to attend this as we feel strongly it's necessary. And now that we know what we're doing in bias, it'll be much more helpful than previous bias events. It was also included in the travel budget for this year. Also, the EDC's annual lunch is February 20th at Little Creek. Since myself and Commissioner Cooper will both be in Spokane, I wanted to see if either Commissioner Scott or Commissioner Jackson are interested in going on this, so I can, or I can RSVP. The WPPA spring meeting is May 15th to 17th at the Davenport Hotel in Spokane. WPPA Finance Seminar, June 12th to 14th at Alderbrook. The Annual Commissioners Seminar will be July 22nd to 24th at Suncadia. Executive Director Seminar is July 11th and 12th at Skamania, and the Environmental Seminar, September 26th and 27th at Campbell's Lodge in Chelan. As these get closer, we'll ask for commitments about attendance so we can make reservations. And I can go into old business if you would like.
Yes.
Okay, Transient Moorage Expansion Project. We're waiting for a letter from the Squaxin Tribe signing off on the archaeological survey we were forced to do so we can get this out to bid. The survey was completed November 21st and no artifacts were found. I received a draft report on December 21st and approved it. Consultant forwarded it to the Squaxin Tribe and they sent an email approving it as well, but the Department of Commerce wants a letter from them. That will allow the final report documents to be forwarded to the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation so our project can finally move forward. In the vouchers you approved tonight, there were invoices for engineering and the archaeological survey totaling over $19,000, for which will be reimbursed out of the capital budget grant. Sweetwater Park, we received and signed the property transfer confirmation letter. Dana Rosenbach hand-delivered it. We sent it back to Kim Sellers from RCO last week via certified mail, so somebody actually has to sign for it and they won't lose it again. I have a call in to her to find out what the next step is. We also got an email from Ken Van Buskirk about some homeless folks camped out there. Dana Rosenbach said they had been removed, and I spoke with Brian Peterson since they were on his property, and he said they've been removed. But I'm looking into the cost of a tall fence around the majority of the site to discourage any new unauthorized people. Oyster House, there's been quite a bit of movement on this since the last meeting. The lobbyist put together a funding proposal for the capital budget request for the full amount of the engineer's estimate, $712,000, and a backup proposal for $562,000. That would include stabilizing the building, taking out the old launch ramp, driving new pilings, getting everything set to move the building in place once it's stabilized. Wouldn't include the interior finish work, which the lobbyists say could be another request next session. They believe once we get the initial money to get the project underway, legislature would most likely fund finishing it with the second request. Met with Trevor from Gordon Thomas Honeywell on Port Day in Olympia last week. We visited a number of legislators, including Dan Griffey, to lay out a strategy for the request, as well as met with Michelle Caldeer from the 26th District and pitched a request to her. Michelle said she would support it as well. We also had a brief meeting with Senator Christine Rolfes, who's the chair of the Ways and Means Committee as well. Overall, the reception was pretty positive. The next day, Commissioner Scott, myself, Trevor, and Brianna all met with Tim Sheldon, and that meeting was pretty positive as well. The cost breakdown and timeline Gordon Thomas Honeywell prepared answered a lot of his questions about the project. Also met with Mike Ross last week, and we cleared the air about all the issues that were of concern on both sides. He understands you all are committed to this project, but that nothing will happen until we know about funding. He's also comfortable with working as the project manager under the conditions Commissioner Cooper outlined at the last meeting. Independent contractor, licensed, bonded, insured, etc. Also been a potential proposal for the port to fund the stabilization work immediately and being reimbursed from the capital budget request. I put a call into Meg Van Schroel at Gordon Thomas Honeywell to find out if that's possible. She said that if the port advances money for building stabilization and receives a commerce grant that includes the activity and the scope of work for the grant request, the port can be reimbursed for capital expenditures made up to 3 years prior. However, to state the obvious, since we don't know for sure we'll get the commerce grant, the port could advance the money and then not get the grant, so there's not money to reimburse. There'll be a lot of documentation required to back up the reimbursement request. Complicating this are all the rules surrounding the Historical Society Heritage Grant the North Bay Historical Society has applied for. Reimbursement grants are available on a reimbursement basis only and cannot be advanced. Reimbursable costs are those that a grantee has already incurred and paid. No funds spent prior to being under contract will be reimbursed, and the final 10% of the funds will be reimbursed after a closeout site visit and meeting has been completed. Perhaps Commissioner Scott may have some additional comments.
Not at this time. I'm still,
Okay. Criminalization of marina rules. After the Allport meeting with Sheriff Salisbury, he came by the next day to talk to me, saying he now understands the issue. Took him 3 hours to tell me that. Kitsap All Ports Association, at the January 28th Kitsap All Ports meeting, I was a program doing a demonstration of bias. Next Kitsap All Ports meeting is April 29th. That's my report.
Sweetwater Park transfer, so what happens from here?
I'm waiting to hear back from Kim Sellers exactly. I believe we have to get a deed.
Okay,
So once we get the deed, then it's ours.
okay.
But, yeah, I wanted to look at either, renting some fencing and putting it around it, or figuring out what it costs for us to fence it. We've got some old fence
Right.
laying around here too that we could maybe use partially. I knew we'd have a use for
Yeah.
that at some point.
Has anybody gone up there and seen, because the email that was sent to me has pictures of the Irene
Yeah.
Creek homeless camp, but references the Sweetwater Creek.
Talking with Dana and talking with Brian, they said there's nobody up there now.
Yeah,
So, and I talked to both of them on Friday,
okay.
so.
where is the Irene Creek?
Or it's
homeless
the,
camp?
it's,
Is it on his side, on Ken's side?
I think it's somewhere down by the Union River. Did you get that email
No,
with the
I didn't.
pictures?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, there was, I thought he sent it to all of us.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
he
he
did,
did.
but,
But there were some pictures and
oh, it's
it,
been a while ago though, right?
Yeah.
Like
it
a
wasn't,
month or
a
so?
couple weeks ago.
Not that long ago.
Okay.
I can share it. I'm not sure, but I can show it to you here, I think.
I think it was about 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's okay. I'm just kind of surprised. That's all.
Camps on the Irene Davis Preserve, 12619 with. Looks like it was sent to RCO.
It was sent on 126.
Hey, you were not in there.
Nope. I didn't get it.
RCO, Kim Sellers, Austin Marguerite, School District,
Okay.
Larry.
Okay.
Anything else under old business?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. New business?
Would it be Bonnie?
Well, we can take care of the voucher thing. We just need to have something that was off 26 cents.
Oh, a new voucher sheet?
Yeah.
Do we have to,
Yeah, so we just need a new, like,
do we have to do a motion or anything for that?
no, she just wanted, it talked about in the minutes,
Okay.
and she'll want the minutes.
Yeah, Paige wants to see it in the minutes, that's all.
Should have said that, but it said 60.
So you don't need a motion, but we will be revising the voucher approvals of, this is payroll, correct? From
Yes.
115.
Yes.
It was $15,373.80. It was 60, now it 60 cents, now it needs to be changed to 86 cents. So we'll change it.
So be it.
All right, thank you.
Next item, discussion of advanced funding for stabilization of Oyster House. Bonnie.
I thought it was gonna be cold in here.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, you know.
Dan's got it cranked.
I'll give you some basic information here. Talk about where we are and which tiers here. We've talked about the funding for this and the grants and everything that we have applied for. This is the grant application. This is a grant program that we are being funded under, assuming that it goes through. This is to the Washington State Heritage Capital Projects Fund, and they fund up to $10 million per biennium. And they run a grant program, which is like page 2 tells you more about it. We applied for that grant and we were approved for $164,000. And you can see on the card we're number 23 on the list. And the Washington Heritage and the Trust, they are all just heavily, heavily lobbying this. You can see the letter that they had us all sign. And we are pushing to have the whole project, the whole list funded. They're pretty confident because Democrats are the ones that are heading it. Democrats are basically, they're in charge of the House and the Senate now. So they're reasonably sure it's going to be fully funded. If it doesn't, then we go to Plan 2. But we had nothing but positive, and we have a couple more $1,000 coming in from them. Did you guys all see Mike's memo about the cost of restoring?
Was it one he sent in the last couple days?
Yeah, something showing
That-
what, if we did emergency repair on the building, what it would be.
Yeah.
Well, I came up with a proposal. This would be page 1 is my proposal, page 2 is the fallback. As a way to break it up and make more sense. When I was talking to Representative Griffey, he was very confused about the grant and where the funding would come from. The port does not need to match that grant. It's a standalone situation where it'll either stand or fall along with the other grants in that application, in that whole list. And they take it as a package, and they drug me around to DeBolt's office and a few other offices saying, we want the whole list funded. They're not happy about trying to pull one off because then it affects everybody else. So this is my proposal, that we stick with the grant for the NBHS, which we already have vetted. It's all been vetted by the state. We've got all the funding, the grant's been approved. And if the legislature funds that program, we'll get the money. And that's according to Art Anderson, sorry, I've had pneumonia. Art Anderson's estimates for the stabilization phase 1, which gets it up to the point of moving. And then the port would take over from there on everything down to the renovation part, and then the NBHS would be responsible for that last piece, the $37,000. So the port could go for the 2 middle ones, as all of the shoreline, basically standalone, separate, joint project with us, rather than mushing it all into one project. And then the last part, the NBHS will just be responsible for that. That make any sense?
Is this contrary to what we've done with lobbyists? Is this different then?
That's what I'm trying to find out. It sounds
Okay.
like it's pretty messy, what they're asking for. Dan was very, very confused. And so this was my way of saying, can we all get on the same page and get the lobbyists? They can support the other grants funding for that, but focus on the ports part of it. Because
So-
these guys have got a whole state lobbying for that grant, whole thing. So if all hell breaks loose and nobody gets funded for anything on that, which is highly unlikely, then they recommend that we each go to our own legislators and say, please can you fund this piece? But it would still be a separate piece from what the port has already asked for.
I think we already
So
have
one
an
or the
ask
other-
in.
So one or the other could go, but not the port asking for the whole thing because it's very confusing.
I think that's what we've already done. We've already asked for $712,000.
Yeah, that's why Dan's confused. Because he doesn't understand that this grant is totally separate. It's already been approved. He thought that the port had to fund that. He thought they had to match the grant, and he said, you can't do that. We're going to look for federal funds, and it's already done. All the match is already there. It's a standalone. It's already there, complete. We've already matched everything. This part is the port. They need to just clarify the two parts and understand. This one, they can say, yeah, we'd like to fund that, support that grant, but it doesn't need to be part of Dan's part. That makes sense?
Well, I know that the lobbyists have gone, Plan A was 712,000.
Yeah.
Plan B was the grant that you're asking for the 163.
They shouldn't be lobbying for that at all. They don't have to.
No, they're not lobbying for that.
Okay.
Plan B was asking for 562,000
62, I think.
because they are considering that grant for what you have, yes, what you have applied for.
Yeah, and been approved for. So they can talk about that, but they don't have to ask for that money. If all hell breaks loose.
For what money?
For the grant.
For the 563?
No, for the 164,000.
Okay, no, they
They're
aren't.
not-
I think the
they are not.
562 is a difference between this and that.
Okay, yeah. So
That was.
because I haven't seen what they're doing, and I don't want to get in their way. It got very confusing when I tried to talk about it. So, and I haven't seen what the lobbyists are doing, so if we could get on the same page, it would be a really good idea.
I know, I think I sent you what the one pager that they're asking for, that they're giving the legislatures to.
I haven't seen it yet. It's probably there.
I might have sent it to the wrong email then, but because there's, I've been using a few, so I'm not sure which one.
That's okay. I'll get it.
But they've already kind of gone down that road. So my question is, we are funded for the 162. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
164, actually.
4? Okay.
Are we approved or funded?
We are already approved for that grant program.
But it hasn't been funded yet.
The legislature has to fund the program, and it'll fund it as a program.
Right,
Up to
I
10 million
understand.
per year is what they put in, and they have always funded it at 10 million.
I understand.
So we're reasonably sure that's going to come through because we've already been vetted, we're on the list for approval, and so either all of us go or none of us go. So that's kind of where that stands.
So a 2-to-1 match, how much is the match? 2-to-1.
We asked for 164, so 164 twice.
So 330.
Yeah, that's what we have
And,
into it.
and who
Time,
pays that?
labor. It's already done. We've already documented that. It's already happened. It included the move, it's included all the labor, it's included all of
The
the
in-kind.
asbestos, and all that in kind went to match that grant. So that's done. They accepted it,
Okay,
and that's ready to go.
Gotcha.
It's already there. And this is a program, it's a biennial program, and so far they've always funded it pretty close to 10. There was one time they didn't, and that was in 2008, during the recession. They
Okay.
funded it halfway. But every indication that they will do it. And I said, if they don't, then they said, every one of us has to go to our own legislators and say, hey, please fund this little piece here. The port could even have those go through even without this. So it would still be like an added, I think they should go down separate tracks because you're more, even if ours didn't get funded and it wasn't time to put it in, he might still get his money.
sure.
And so that takes care of that side of it, and I think it's much smarter to let the statewide organization be pushing ours. And as long as the lobbyists know what we're doing, I think it's really important. Because I don't want to get in their way.
The lobbyists are aware of the grant, right?
Yeah.
And what's their take on it? I mean, what's their advice to us?
Their advice to us was see what happens with what we're doing. We're going to know by the end of March, one way or the other, when the legislature's
We
finished.
won't know.
And their advice is wait and see what happens, and then if we have to regroup after that, if it isn't funded, then, take another look and figure something else out. They're also looking in other places for money besides the state legislature. They sent an email over the weekend, did you all see it, about they're getting letters of support from, I forget the name of it, one shellfish company, and they're going to Taylor, and
By the way, I did talk to Bill Dewey today, and that information is to email him, and he'll write a letter for him.
great.
And Taylor is interested in that project, and
Yeah, they
Oh, yeah.
contributed to it before.
And they're still
gave us 5,000,
contributing.
Yeah,
And they
the-
contributed
yeah.
to Shellfish for one fundraiser, and they're doing it for this one too.
Yeah, I got an
That's a bunch
okay
of
from
money.
him that he's donating oysters and
That's good.
clams and stuff, so.
I really would like to sit down with the lobbyists, at least, kind of get our minds going in the same direction so that we don't, either one of us get blindsided on it. Because we are not asking for the shoreline part of it, not
Right.
at all. But this will be totally for the restoration of it, and I've talked to them about the new estimates. So, and they said that's fine. Okay, on page 2,
Well, I can let you know the next time we're gonna be here, if you'd like.
that'd be great, because I just want to, make sure that the minds are going in the same direction. I just want to read down through that.
So basically, though, you're asking for item 3 and 4.
Yes. We can come up
North
to
Bay.
$30,000, and we believe we can do that in the next couple of months. We got some real heavy stuff going on. We're already at over 20, so we'd have to get up to 30. But if the court would put in the other 20, we could stabilize that immediately. And that's what Mike would really like to see happen, so we don't lose it. And anything beyond that coming in the grant would just go more towards the rest of the project. And you could finance it within, Judy understands the IDD. You could borrow from there, put it in there and
Sure.
pay it back for 7
Yeah.
years. So it's not a big amount of money. If we raise 30, if you guys could put in 20.
So my question is, if the port's the lead agency on the restoration project, and there's big things going on, what are they?
What do you mean there's big things?
You said you got some big things going on, you could come up with $30,000.
We were approached by a private funding group. They want to give us a couple $1,000s. The Slavinsky grant people approached me. They would like to be involved in that grant. That's a couple $1,000s. And we've got a big fundraiser coming up. We expect to get $2,000 or $3,000 out of that. And we went to Victor Club the other day. They're considering giving us a donation. Plus we got 50 just from the crowd. We're going to be going to Grapeview and do the same thing and other organizations around to make a difference. Get it to 30.
And North Bay currently has 20.
So we need to raise about $10,000, but the minute we hit that, we would really like the court to become involved at that point. And let's stabilize the building before this whole thing is for nothing.
And what Mike has said, when we had a North Bay, actually it was the fundraiser. Anyway, we sat down with Mike, and Mike said that he could, with about 50,000, he could stabilize that, not rebuild everything, but stabilize it where it's not going to fall down.
Who does the work?
He would have to hire it done.
Contracted,
Yeah.
so it'd be prevailing wage and
Well,
public works contracting.
that's
and-
the funny part. With the prevailing wage, if the court doesn't put in over half, they don't have to pay prevailing wage. If they don't do over half of the project. So,
I would wanna check up on that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'd like to
Yeah.
get a clarification of that.
I have what you sent me, Larry. I'll send it all the way
Okay.
around again. Is the Allyn thing that I got. But that would be prevailing wage. That's what that was the bid from Mark Anderson. That's what he took.
Well, yeah, and Mike, this is based on a prevailing wage.
Yeah,
The restoration part?
Yes.
that one
Or
piece
the-
of it.
the
Mike-
It's not
stabilization,
it's not
I
the
gotcha,
It's
yep.
the stabilization,
Yep.
not the
I
restoration.
meant to say stabilization.
And Mike combed through Art Anderson's things and
Here-
pulled
here's
out
what
what
Mike
really needed to
kinda-
happen.
This one.
Gave me. Yeah, that one. Yep.
And that way, if everything falls through, we still have a building for next biennium. And that's the worst-case scenario, but if it does come through, then the port's invested 20 and we've got 30 into it, and that won't be reimbursed, but it can certainly go for match for other stuff, match for other grants that we're going for.
And the port's got 25 into it this year already,
That's, must be the lobbying part of it.
It's
Yes.
the lobbyists, yeah.
which was tough. That was a
Yeah.
tough amount of money for me to spend. And then another 20 on top of
I should have
it.
asked you first.
It's gonna
if you
be
had this
even
piece
tougher.
done. Well, no, it's the IDD fund, and you wouldn't have to pay it for
Oh.
7 years.
I- I'm aware how that works, but it's still,
Well, you're in interest on it, too.
all right, well, thank you.
If you would consider that, we'd really appreciate it.
I will definitely consider it. And of course, we want Ted involved as well. but-
Absolutely.
Yeah, he texted me a minute ago and said he's still in the meeting. So,
Okay. Well, I have a package you can give to Ted to show
Sure,
him what we're
yeah.
talking about. And, you know, I'd be happy to talk with him and kind of fill him
Yeah.
in where I said. So it is kind of cold bare bones, but it really is important that we get that thing stabilized.
Very.
And it would be a shame if we paid $25,000 for lobbying and there was no reason why. So, there, you know, it's kind of a catch-22 on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So, I don't think we'll take any action today. We'll
We could get,
consider a special meeting or
Yeah.
table it till next month or?
no, I don't think we should
Okay.
wait till next month. I'd like to
Okay.
have another meeting.
Okay,
I know it's laborious to do that, but
sure.
we need to make a decision.
So what's your thoughts on it? I mean, this is kind of your,
I'm pretty confident that we're gonna get some money from the legislature. I know they're gonna do something. Whether it's everything that we asked for, but, I think this would be money, as long as we handle this money, what we're putting back into it, if we do the stabilization and we document everything correctly, I think we can get that reimbursed. So I don't feel like we're gonna be out, you know, a whole lot more.
okay.
But it is in not good repair, and especially, I don't think it should go through another winter. And it would be going through another winter
Another
if we don't
winter,
get something done.
Not
this-
counting
This one,
February through?
Yeah.
Okay. This winter?
yes.
Yeah. Not another winter, but this
Yeah.
winter, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it really needs to get done. And
I appreciate
luckily,
that.
we haven't had a real nasty winter yet,
Yeah.
but it's
Got
in.
some snow on it last
needs-
night.
Yes, it did. But it does need to get something done.
The other thing with the grants and that, nothing can be used until July 1st. Then the contracts have to go out, and you have to be signed around, and that can take 6 weeks easily. And then you have to go out for bid, another, what? 50,
Month
60
at least,
days.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you can find a contractor
And
for
then you
that
have
small of a
to
job.
That's
Yeah.
tough, and that's what's scary about it.
Yeah.
I think it's that Mike is getting seriously concerned about collapsing. And you can talk to him directly, but he really would like to see this.
Yeah, it would probably be wise to have him come and, you know, give his
Exactly,
take
that
on it.
discussion meeting, have him there,
Yeah,
because that's where I came up with this. It's waiting a long time, it gets into a really bad rainy season again, and he said he could have this part done, you know, by summer.
I just forwarded both of you what Meg said when I asked her about this. So,
okay. Do we need to read
no,
that,
you
or-
don't need to read it now.
Okay.
I mean, it's. But just
Is that-
so.
Is that what you sent me, Larry?
Did I send it? I think I did send it to you.
sent me the whole answers, question answers?
Yeah.
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 All right.
I think I'd sent it to you
Yep,
all
yep.
previously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
this
I
one I've
remember
read,
this,
yep.
yeah.
So we'll do a
Yeah, this
special
is
meeting to
Sunday.
talk about this specifically, and we would ask that Larry bring the financial package, you know, what that looks like.
Okay. You want to set up a time now, or you want to wait?
We should probably wait.
You probably want to wait for
Yeah,
Ted.
maybe we
Okay.
could do a meeting survey.
Okay,
couple
yeah.
dates. I mean,
Okay.
We'll keep you notified.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Discussion of comprehensive scheme update. I would go along with your recommendation that we just leave it alone because it's still good for
Yeah,
a
it's-
few more years. And like you said, there's
I agree.
nothing big on our
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah.
Just, the date was coming up that it have
Yeah.
to be in, and I just wanted to be sure we all agree.
And I think
I think we're on target with it anyway, so
We are.
like you said, we're okay.
our big project is the Oyster House, and we're pushing forward with that. And so no action on item C under new business. Public comment. Yes, please, Jeff.
Thank you. Just two quick things. One is, don't have anything new to discuss with TIPCAP yet, but they have released, and the committee will look at this month, but the county's received from the consultants the draft of like the 11 different options for extending Trails End Road
Nice.
to either 106 or Highway 3 through Razor Road East, or some combination, either new grades or existing grades, or they worked up like, I want to say at least 11 different possibilities. Some backtrack quite a ways. One goes through Lakeland. They ain't gonna fly real well. But they were looking at all the different cost options, and so that's going to be seen by the committee, I think, this month, and then I think in the end of March or early April, but I think we're targeting end of March, the TIPCAP will have an open house meeting, probably like we did last year up at the hub.
When is that?
Probably the last week of March,
Okay,
but I'll let you know at the next board meeting.
okay.
I don't, we didn't sign off on dates yet at the last meeting, so everybody was saying do the same, meet the same place, because that's central to that commissioner's district, whether you have people coming from Tahuya or, South Shore, or, Victor, Allyn, whatever. So that was about as central as it gets, or maybe Allyn, but at this point, given how many people were there at the last meeting, I'll probably be there. So, so I will let you know at the next meeting where and when exactly on that. And again, as far as the economic development component, the county commissioners keep asking us to look at those aspects, both at the UGAs, welfare and Allyn, both. So if there are things, and like I said a couple meetings back, appreciate the one thing you gave us last year, but keep looking at it and take it from there. And then the last thing is, just as a side note from that workshop meeting you had here a couple weeks ago on the water rates, you might want to, I was looking at it, the water system plan, a couple different reasons, but there's a financial section in there, section 9, and it talks about what the port's thinking as written by the engineer that was doing the water system plan. If it just needs consideration when you go through the process. Doesn't mean, from my understanding, doesn't mean you have to follow it verbatim or anything of that nature. It's just at that moment in time that was the consideration, and that was submitted to the state. Our water system has the same issues. In other words, we submit a plan, what we think the water rates are going to be, and then sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't. And all we do is provide documentation as to why we deviated from one or the other, either way. So.
We have lots of that.
We have deviation from our plan?
Anyway, I just let you know that there's a section in that plan.
Financial.
Section 9, and it has that in there, and because if the public's looking at it and then they see rates and they're different,
Sure.
you're going to have your own form of static, and you need to think it through and have it ready for the meeting.
Sure.
So,
Great,
or at least I would.
thank you. Yeah.
Anyway.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you
Yeah,
much.
Appreciate that. Any other public comment?
Rah-rah team.
Yeah,
Hey.
Yeah, I have something. When we-
sure. Good to
when
the
we-
order.
Well, kind of. When we do the redoing the parking lot. As you know, Iddings had requested the lowering of the,
Speed limit.
Thank you, my stars. Can we, as a port, request that too, in support of that, or is that something? Because I've had a few others say that they were really concerned about the speed limit.
I think
Getting
it's
lowered.
Yeah. we
community
can-
driven or,
Yeah, we can write a letter to the county and ask.
Yeah, okay. I just thought it might be a good idea,
Sure.
because they do go ripping around there pretty fast. And the totem pole, have you been able to get a hold of the guy to?
yeah, all we need to do is get it to the ground and then,
That's easy.
yeah, well, no, so we're gonna change, I mean, I could fall it, but it would probably not survive the fall, so,
iron, but it's barely being held up.
so we're gonna have, James
Yeah.
lower it, Don or myself can cut it off, so we'll lower it to the ground, and then, who's Kenny across the street?
Oh, George Kenny?
George.
Yeah.
I keep trying to call him Frank, which is his brother. George will come over and inspect it. He believes that it's outlived its full life, so it's probably rotten in the middle. And if that's the case, I don't know what we do with it from there, but there's no, no component to it to where we have to do anything special with it.
That's why none of the tribes knew anything
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the same one in his yard over there. Yeah.
That's funny.
He's got,
Nobody knew anything about it?
he's got the same exact one over there in his yard.
You probably find something a couple years ago, but
He said it was, they had a carving event, and it was across the street in your guys' old property, and he built it in a weekend and donated it to the port.
yeah,
Yep, and they brought it over via flatbed truck, and it was hanging so far off the end, somebody had to walk behind it, and then they erected it in that site, and it's been there ever since, and that was 26 years ago, I think he said. 26, 28 years ago. Richard, do you
Well,
remember
I'm
it?
calling all the
Getting put up?
tribes about, whose totem pole is this, and we don't want
we
to.
did the same thing for years, we
Yeah.
never get an answer, it's like, can we
Now,
just push it over, I mean, it was on fire one night, I should have just let it burn.
now we know why.
Why not pump it full of epoxy and save it forever?
We might, that might be an option. We're
Boy,
not
that'd be
opposed to
expensive.
anything.
That'd be expensive.
Well, people love it, they like it.
Yeah.
But George will come over and he will look at it, and he is not committed to anything other than saying that he'd look at it. He did the firefighter statue, he did one for District 5, he did one for District 2. We had somebody kind of out of the blue come and say, can I restore your statue? And we said yes. So I reached out to him about this statue, and he came down and looked at it and said he would be interested in restoring it if there's something there to restore. And that's as far as we've gotten. We don't know where he would do it at, or, if he needs a covered area, I don't, James has got a nice covered area there.
Yeah, he does.
It'd fit perfectly inside that building, but,
Well, it would be nice because like when the tribes did the paddling years, a number of them went over and started telling us what the different symbols was.
it was interesting because,
Some of them were kind of confused.
well,
Now we know.
Not sure what that is.
yeah, I mean, the totem pole in its day was to tell people as they came up to the shore what was available to them. So each thing had this symbolic meaning, and it could have an arrow, or it's basically like the wayfinding signs that we're
Yeah.
doing around town, and it was just their way of a wayfinding sign.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting, definitely worth looking at saving if we can, but we might think about putting something in its place if it's not savable, which I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll have
I
Love a
talked to
contest.
Brian about the wayfinding signs too, and he said they finally got everything organized about them, and they should be going
Oh, good.
shortly.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
that's great.
Nautical flag pole would be.
That would be awesome,
Yeah.
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 Windsock and nautical flagpole. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, good, well, thanks.
Well, anything else for good to the order?
Not for me.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.